Shadow Reel, File 002, Children of Men, 2006. Opening. What if one of the most accurate predictions about our future wasn't hidden inside a science fiction novel, but inside a movie almost nobody believed could become real? Every generation produces films that imagine tomorrow. Flying cars, artificial intelligence, space travel. But every once in a while, a film appears that predicts something far more difficult to see. Not technology, not inventions, human behavior. In 2006, Children of Men arrived in theaters looking like another dystopian thriller. A world where humanity had suddenly become infertile, governments collapsing, refugees treated as enemies, society slowly abandoning hope. Most audiences saw fiction.
What they didn't realize was that the film wasn't trying to predict what would happen. It was asking a far more disturbing question. What happens to civilization after it loses its future? Over the years, something strange began to happen. The headlines started changing. Mass migration reached levels few had imagined. Political polarization intensified across continents. Pandemics exposed how fragile even advanced societies could become. Governments expanded emergency powers. Entire populations became accustomed to surveillance, checkpoints, fear, and constant uncertainty. Suddenly, the atmosphere inside Children of Men no longer felt fictional. It felt familiar. But perhaps the most unsettling discovery isn't how many events resemble the world Alfonso Cuarón created. It's understanding why the film feels so believable. Because behind every scene lies an extraordinary creative process involving journalists, historians, political analysts, architects, military consultants, and meticulous production decisions that transformed speculation into something that still feels uncomfortably real nearly 2 decades later. This file isn't an investigation into whether Children of Men predicted the future. It's an investigation into how a group of filmmakers constructed a version of tomorrow so psychologically convincing that reality seems to have been quietly catching up ever since. And the deeper we opened this archive, the stranger the evidence became. Before we open the first classified file, I have one small request. If investigations like this are the reason you come to YouTube, where movies are treated as evidence instead of entertainment, take a second to support this investigation by leaving a like. It tells the algorithm that there are still people interested in slow, deep, evidence-based documentaries rather than endless noise. And I'd genuinely like to hear your perspective. Do you think Children of Men predicted the future? Or did it simply understand humanity better than the rest of us?
Leave your thoughts in the comments. Some of the best discoveries in this series have come from viewers who noticed details the investigation almost missed. And if you're new to Shadow Reel, consider subscribing. Every week we reopen another cinematic case file, examining the hidden stories, disturbing coincidences, forgotten production secrets, and unsettling cultural echoes behind films that refuse to stay fictional. Because sometimes the most dangerous discoveries aren't hidden inside classified government archives. They're hiding in movies
we've already watched. Now, let's unlock the first file. The deeper we pushed into this archive, the more obvious it became that Children of Men was never conceived as an ordinary science fiction film. The first clue takes us back to the early 1990s, when British author P.D. James published her novel, The Children of Men, in 1992. At first glance, it looked like another dystopian story. Humanity had mysteriously lost the ability to reproduce. No one knew why. Civilization was slowly running out of time. But Alfonso Cuarón wasn't interested in adapting the novel word for word. When development finally gained momentum in the early 2000s, he saw something much more unsettling hidden beneath its pages. The collapse of civilization wasn't caused by aliens. It wasn't caused by robots. It wasn't even caused by war. It began with something almost invisible: the disappearance of hope. That single idea would become the foundation of everything the film was trying to communicate. Production officially moved forward around 2004, with Cuarón directing alongside writers Timothy J. Sexton, David Arata, Mark Fergus, Hawk Ostby, and later extensive rewrites that reshaped the narrative into something far more immediate and politically charged. Instead of creating a distant future filled with impossible technology, Cuarón made a radical decision. He wanted the year 2027 to feel like tomorrow, not 50 years away, not a fantasy. Just one political crisis after another, slowly accumulating until the world no longer recognized itself. To achieve that, the filmmakers deliberately avoided many of the visual cliches audiences expected from futuristic cinema. No gleaming skyscrapers, no clean utopias, no miraculous inventions solving humanity's problems. Instead, they imagined cities that looked old, worn out, overcrowded, and psychologically exhausted. A future built not through dramatic revolution, but through gradual decline. Filming began in late 2005 across England, with London serving as the emotional center of this collapsing society. Additional locations were carefully selected to preserve a sense of realism, making every street, apartment, refugee camp, and government checkpoint feel like places that already existed, rather than elaborate movie sets. Leading the investigation on screen was Clive Owen as Theo Farron, joined by Julianne Moore, Claire Hope Ashitay, Michael Caine, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Charlie Hunnam, and Pam Ferris. Their performances rarely feel theatrical. Instead, they resemble ordinary people trying to survive extraordinary circumstances, a choice that quietly strengthens the illusion that we're watching fragments of a real historical event, rather than scenes from a fictional production. And perhaps that's the first truly disturbing discovery inside this file. Children of Men doesn't ask us to believe in an impossible future. It asks us to recognize pieces of our own world before they fully arrived. If this part of the investigation made you see the film from a different perspective, write "Hope is the first casualty" in the comments. Sometimes a single sentence says more than 1,000 predictions. Because what we uncovered behind the script was only the beginning. Because what we uncovered behind the script was only the beginning The goal was simple. If every frame felt grounded in reality, the audience would stop questioning the world and start believing it. Principal photography continued throughout 2005, with acclaimed cinematographer Emmanuel Lubezki transforming that vision into something extraordinary. Rather than relying on traditional Hollywood coverage, Lubezki and Cuarón built scenes around long, uninterrupted takes that placed the viewer inside the action instead of safely observing it from a distance. The result was revolutionary. The famous car ambush sequence wasn't simply filmed. It had to be engineered. A specially designed vehicle allowed cameras, actors, and even parts of the car itself to move with incredible precision inside an extremely confined space. Seats folded away, camera rigs rotated through the cabin, crew members disappeared from view in perfect synchronization. What appears effortless on screen was actually the product of months of planning, rehearsals, mechanical innovation, and dozens of carefully coordinated attempts. The same obsessive preparation shaped the breathtaking battle sequence near the film's conclusion, where explosions, collapsing buildings, hundreds of extras, practical effects, visual effects, military choreography, and handheld camera movement merge into what feels less like cinema and more like witnessing history unfold in real time. What makes these scenes so unsettling isn't their scale, it's their restraint. There are no triumphant speeches, no heroic slow motion, no reassuring soundtrack telling us when to feel safe. Only confusion, smoke, sirens, people running because they don't know where safety exists anymore. And perhaps that's why these images have aged so differently from many blockbuster films released during the same decade. They don't resemble entertainment. They resemble memories. By the time Children of Men premiered in September 2006 at the Venice Film Festival, before its wider theatrical release later that year, audiences praised its technical brilliance. Critics celebrated its cinematography, direction, and immersive storytelling. Yet few could have imagined that years later, many of these scenes would be revisited, not because of their filmmaking alone, but because reality itself would begin producing images that felt disturbingly similar. If this file has made you appreciate the craftsmanship behind the illusion, leave the words "reality was the reference" in the comments. Because the final file doesn't investigate how the movie was made. It investigates something far more unsettling: how the world slowly started looking back at it. As we reached the final pages of this investigation, the evidence pointed toward a conclusion very different from the one we expected when this file was first opened. The true mystery of Children of Men isn't whether it predicted the future. The mystery is why it continues to feel more relevant every single year. When the film was released in 2006, many viewers believed its world was simply too extreme to ever resemble reality. Mass displacement, refugee camps stretching across nations, permanent states of emergency, collapsing public trust, militarized borders, constant surveillance, and a population slowly losing faith in tomorrow all seemed like dramatic exaggerations designed for dystopian cinema. Then history kept moving. The global financial crisis shook confidence in political systems. Refugee crises dominated international headlines. terror attacks reshaped security policies in many countries. The COVID-19 pandemic reminded the world how quickly everyday life could change. While empty streets, emergency restrictions, uncertainty, and collective anxiety became part of lived experience for billions of people. None of these events proved that children of men predicted the future. But together they revealed something arguably more fascinating. The filmmakers had understood patterns of human behavior that emerge whenever societies are pushed toward fear, instability, and uncertainty. That's why the movie still feels alive. Its greatest prediction wasn't a technological invention. It was an emotional landscape. Hopelessness, isolation, political division. The gradual normalization of extraordinary measures. And perhaps the film's most powerful symbol was never human infertility itself. Infertility was simply the metaphor. The real question hiding beneath the entire story was whether civilization can survive after losing its belief that tomorrow will be better than today. That question feels just as urgent now as it did nearly 2
decades ago. Perhaps even more. Looking back today, it's remarkable to remember that Alfonso Cuarón never claimed to be forecasting the future. Neither did Clive Owen, Julianne Moore, Michael Caine, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Claire Hope Ashiti, or the rest of the cast speak about creating a prophetic film during production. They were crafting a grounded human drama built on careful observation of history, politics, migration, media, and social psychology. Maybe that's exactly why it continues to resonate. The strongest dystopias aren't created by imagining impossible worlds. They're created by paying close attention to the one already surrounding us. And that's where this investigation quietly closes. Not with proof that cinema can predict tomorrow, but with evidence that the greatest filmmakers sometimes recognize the direction history is already moving before the rest of us notice. If this investigation changed the way you see Children of Men, write "The future leaves clues" in the comments. I'd love to know which moment from the film feels the most unsettling to you today. If you enjoyed opening this file, consider subscribing to Shadow Reel. Every investigation uncovers another film whose production, hidden history, or cultural impact turned out to be far stranger than fiction itself. Until the next investigation, File 002 is now closed.